The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning at the United Earth Embassy. It was written in standard Galactic code, its holographic display floating above the main communication console. Earth had finally received an invitation to the Galactic Council's annual leadership summit, after decades of being ignored following their achievement of faster-than-light travel. In the grand meeting hall of the embassy, world leaders gathered to discuss this unprecedented opportunity. The room buzzed with excitement and nervous energy as officials debated who should represent humanity at such a crucial event. After hours of discussion, they reached a unanimous decision. Ambassador James Walker would be their voice among the stars. Walker was known for his calm demeanor and sharp mind. He had negotiated peace treaties during Earth's last conflicts and helped unite the planet's nations under a single banner. His gray hair and weathered face spoke of experience, while his alert eyes showed an intelligence that had served humanity well for decades. Ambassador Walker, the Council President's message stated, "Your presence is required at the Nexus Station in the Centauri Neutral Zone within 2 standard galactic weeks. This is humanity's first invitation to participate in galactic politics. We expect proper protocol to be followed." The journey to Nexus Station took 5 days aboard Earth's newest diplomatic vessel, the Unity. Walker spent the time studying alien customs and political structures. He knew that humanity's future might depend on his performance at this summit. As the Unity approached Nexus Station, Walker stood at the observation deck, taking in the magnificent structure. The station was a marvel of engineering. A massive ring-shaped construct that sparkled like a jewel against the backdrop of space. Ships from dozens of alien civilizations docked at its numerous ports, their designs varying from crystalline structures to organic-looking vessels that seemed alive. The docking procedure was smooth, managed by the station's advanced AI systems. Walker and his small team of advisors were met by a reception committee of robotic guides, programmed to assist visiting diplomats. The corridors they walked through were filled with representatives from across the galaxy, some floating, others walking on multiple legs, and a few moving in ways that defied Earth's understanding of physics. "Welcome to Nexus Station," announced a melodic voice through their universal translators. "The summit will begin in 3 standard hours. All representatives are to gather in the Grand Chamber." Walker used this time to observe. He noticed how some species clustered together, while others maintained careful distances. The politics of space were already playing out before the official meetings began. Some alien diplomats cast curious glances at the human delegation, while others deliberately turned away. The Grand Chamber itself was breathtaking. Its ceiling stretched hundreds of meters high, with floating platforms holding different delegations at various levels. The arrangement, Walker realized, was itself a display of power. The most influential species occupy the highest platforms. Earth's delegation was assigned to one of the lowest platforms, barely above the chamber floor. The message was clear. Humanity was at the bottom of the galactic political hierarchy. "Stay calm," Walker whispered to his team as they took their places. "We're here to learn and observe. Every reaction will be judged." The chamber filled with thousands of representatives from hundreds of worlds. The air hummed with translated conversations and the movement of various species. Light displays danced across the chamber's walls, showing information in multiple languages and formats. As the last delegations settled into place, the chamber's lighting dimmed slightly. A massive hologram appeared in the center of the room, showing the council president, a being composed of shifting energy patterns contained within a transparent shell. "We gather," the president's voice resonated through the chamber, "for the 50,000th Galactic Summit. Today, we welcome new observers to our assembly. May wisdom guide our discussions and progress emerge from our debates." Walker sat straight in his chair, maintaining a diplomatic smile. But inside, he was already analyzing everything. The subtle interactions, the political currents, and most importantly, the barely hidden disdain some species showed toward the human delegation. This was just the beginning, and he knew the real challenges were yet to come. The first signs of trouble began during the opening ceremonies. As Walker and his team sat quietly on their low platform, the whispers and translated murmurs reached their ears through their universal translators. The comments weren't meant to be subtle. "Look at their primitive environmental suits," came a crystalline voice from above. "They still need atmosphere to breathe." This drew quiet laughter from several nearby delegations. Walker kept his expression neutral, but his mind recorded every slight, every dismissive gesture. The being who had spoken was from the Crystal Collective, a species that had evolved beyond the need for traditional biological functions. They floated on one of the highest platforms, their crystalline bodies refracting light in complex patterns. The first formal presentation of the summit focused on technological achievements across the galaxy. When Earth's turn came to present their recent advancements in quantum computing, the reaction was immediate and harsh. "Quantum entanglement communication. We mastered that 10,000 years ago," rumbled a massive entity composed of living metal. "They present children's science as if it were an achievement." Walker watched as his chief scientist, Dr. Thompson, maintained her composure while explaining Earth's unique approach to the technology. But her words were constantly interrupted by derisive sounds from various species, clicks, hums, and translated chuckles that echoed through the chamber. During the mid-session break, Walker noticed how other delegations physically moved away when humans approached. At the refreshment area, designed to accommodate the needs of various species, a group of energy beings deliberately dimmed their glow and drifted away when Walker's team arrived. "They're afraid," Thompson whispered to Walker, keeping her voice low. "All this mockery, it's covering something else." Walker nodded slightly. He had noticed the same thing. Beneath the contempt, there was an undercurrent of tension whenever humans moved too close to other delegations. The question was, why? The afternoon session proved even more challenging. When Earth presented their plans for colonial expansion in their local sector, the reaction was immediate and hostile. "They breed like bacteria," a cloud-like being announced loudly. "Their reproduction rates are unsustainable for a civilized galaxy." The comment drew appreciative murmurs from many delegations. Walker watched as the council president, the energy being in its transparent shell, made no attempt to maintain order or dignity in the proceedings. If anything, the president seemed to encourage the hostile atmosphere. A delegation of tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin approached Earth's platform during another break. Their leader, towering over Walker, spoke with artificial politeness. "We find it amusing that your species achieved faster than light travel through such crude methods. Did you really burn exotic matter in contained explosions?" "We did," Walker replied calmly. "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective." "Simplicity is certainly your species' hallmark," the being replied, drawing more laughter from those nearby. "How fortunate you must be to stumble into the stars through blind luck rather than true understanding." As the day progressed, the insults became less veiled. Earth's industrial capacity was dismissed as primitive resource consumption. Their medical advances were labeled barbaric biological manipulation. Their military capabilities were mocked as children playing with dangerous toys. But Walker noticed something interesting. Each time Earth was insulted, he observed certain delegations exchanging quick glances. Some seemed nervous, others calculating. The mockery felt orchestrated, as if following an unwritten script. During the final session of the day, Walker sat quietly, compiling mental notes. He had counted 17 major species that seemed genuinely hostile, 12 that appeared neutral but fearful, and 5 that showed subtle signs of interest in Earth despite the prevailing attitude. As the chamber began to empty for the day, Walker heard one final comment that confirmed his suspicions. A small group of ancient species were speaking quietly, not realizing their translators were still broadcasting. "They achieved in centuries what took us millennia," one whispered. "If we don't contain them now." The voice cut off abruptly when they noticed Walker's attention. But he had heard enough. Tomorrow would bring more insults, more mockery. But now he understood the fear behind it. and he began to plan his response. The second day of the summit began with the crucial vote on resource distribution across the galaxy. Walker knew this moment was vital. Access to rare elements and energy sources could determine humanity's future development. The Council President's energy form pulsed with bright patterns as they announced, "We will now proceed with the allocation of quantum-grade materials for the next solar cycle." One by one, each species was called to register their needs and cast their votes. The process moved smoothly until it was Earth's turn. The President's energy patterns dimmed slightly, and there was a long pause. "We seem to have an oversight," the President announced, their translated voice dripping with false concern. "Earth's delegation hasn't completed the required 10,000 years of technological stability to participate in resource allocation." Walker stood up, datapad in hand. "With respect, President, no such requirement was mentioned in the summit protocols we received." "The requirement is traditional," the President responded, drawing knowing chuckles from the chamber. "Surely you don't expect us to trust vital resources to a species that only recently learned to split atoms." The chamber erupted in various sounds of amusement. Some species flashed bright colors, others vibrated in their version of laughter. A group of gas-based beings actually condensed into liquid droplets from their equivalent of hysterical laughter. The President raised their energy appendages for silence. Perhaps this is an appropriate moment to address the Council's concerns about Earth's presence here. Walker watched as the President's form floated to the center of the chamber, growing larger and more brilliant. The theatrical display was clearly planned. "Look at these humans," the President's voice boomed. "They come here proud of their tiny achievements. They burned their own planet's resources for centuries before stumbling upon basic space travel. Their bodies are fragile, their lives pathetically short, their technology crude and dangerous." Each statement was met with sounds of agreement from various delegations. Walker remained standing, his face calm, though his hands gripped the railing of their platform tightly. "They solve problems with violence," the President continued. "They alter their own genetic code without concern for consequences. They create artificial intelligences that could destabilize the entire galaxy. And now they want equal standing with species that have maintained peace for millennia." The chamber was filled with approving gestures and sounds. The President's energy form swirled dramatically. "Their art is primitive, their music is chaos, their literature is filled with conflict. They dream of spreading across the stars like a virus, reproducing without control, consuming resources like hungry parasites." Walker watched as even some of the previously neutral species joined in the mockery. The insults were calculated to unite the Council against Earth, using humanity's rapid progress as a threat rather than an achievement. Perhaps, the President concluded, their form now pulsing with bright, victorious patterns, they should return to their single star system and wait another 1,000 years before presuming to join civilized, spacefaring species. The chamber erupted in the loudest display yet. Some species released pheromones of satisfaction. Others generated harmonic frequencies of approval. The crystal collective beings sparkled with patterns that translated as pure contempt. Walker stood through it all, his expression unchanged. When the noise began to die down, he made his move. Stepping forward on their low platform, he activated his translator to maximum volume. "Honored President," his voice cut through the diminishing sounds of amusement, "I request permission to address the Council." The President's energy form flickered with what seemed to be amused surprise. "You wish to speak, after such a clear demonstration of the Council's position?" "Yes," Walker replied firmly. "As is my right under Section 7 of the Galactic Charter. Even non-member species may respond to direct accusations in Council." The President's form dimmed slightly. They hadn't expected Walker to know that obscure regulation. After a moment's pause, they responded with clear reluctance. "Very well, Human Walker. You may address the Council, though I doubt you can say anything to change the evident truth of my words." Walker straightened his jacket and took a deep breath. The moment he had been preparing for had arrived. Walker stepped to the edge of Earth's platform, his voice clear and measured as he began to speak. The chamber fell into a curious silence, many species expecting either an angry outburst or desperate pleading. Honored members of the council, Walker began, activating a small holographic projector in his hand. Before I address the recent comments, I would like to share something with you all. Above the chamber, images began to appear, ancient cave paintings from Earth. These were humanity's first attempts at art, made when we were still learning to make fire. Simple, crude, as you might say. The images shifted to show similar primitive artwork from other species' histories. These are from the early days of the Crystal Collective. And these, more images appeared, from the gas beings of the Nebula Alliance. Remarkably similar, aren't they? Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. Walker continued, his voice growing stronger. You mock our violent history. Let me show you something. The hologram displayed scenes of ancient conflicts from various species. The metal mines fought 6 civil wars before achieving unity. The energy beings once nearly destroyed their own sun in a power struggle. Every species here has a history written in conflict and survival. The president's energy form flickered uncertainly. These historical comparisons are irrelevant. On the contrary, Walker interrupted smoothly. They are exactly the point. You call us primitive for taking centuries to achieve spaceflight. Let's look at the development timeline of every species here. New data scrolled through the air, showing technological progression rates. Humanity went from first powered flight to landing on our moon in just 66 years. From splitting the atom to quantum computing in less than a century. What you achieved in millennia, we did in generations. The chamber had grown very quiet now. Walker's words hung in the air as he continued. You fear our reproduction rates, our adaptation speed, our chaotic approach to technology. Perhaps you should, not because we're a threat, but because we represent something you've all forgotten. The drive to evolve, to change, to grow. Walker turned slowly, making eye contact with various delegates. You mock our short lives, but that very brevity drives us to achieve more, faster. You laugh at our crude solutions, but they work. You fear our AI development, but we've learned to coexist with our creations rather than suppress them like many of you have. The holographic display showed Earth's recent achievements, clean energy systems, medical breakthroughs, environmental restoration projects. We made mistakes, yes. We nearly destroyed our planet, but we also saved it. We faced our errors and corrected them, faster than any species in this chamber ever has. Some of the younger species were now showing signs of interest, their natural forms betraying their engagement with Walker's words. You call us primitive because we still need atmosphere to breathe. We call ourselves adaptable because we've learned to breathe on Mars, under the ice of Europa, in the clouds of Venus. Our primitive bodies don't limit us. They drive us to find solutions. Walker's voice softened slightly, but carried even more weight. You see our art as primitive, our music as chaos, our literature as conflict. That's because they're alive, growing, changing. When was the last time any of your species created truly new art forms rather than repeating million-year-old patterns? The Crystal Collective's dismissive sparkles had faded to uncertain flickering. The gas beings had stopped their condensation laughter entirely. We don't come here asking for your approval, Walker concluded, his voice firm and clear. We come offering partnership. You can mock our methods, fear our speed, or dismiss our achievements. But ask yourselves this, in the time you've spent looking down on us, how many new solutions have you discovered? How many boundaries have you pushed? How many true changes have you embraced? Walker switched off the holographic projector, letting darkness fall over the chamber again. We may be young, we may be different, but we are not lesser. We are humanity, and we have earned our place among the stars. The silence that followed was absolute. In the heavy silence that followed Walker's opening statements, he pulled out a second device from his pocket. The tension in the chamber was palpable as he activated it, projecting a new series of images into the space above. "Now," Walker said calmly, "let me show you what humanity has really been working on while you've been mocking our primitive methods." The first projection showed a small, seemingly simple cube. "This," Walker explained, "is our solution to waste management. While your civilizations built massive processing plants, we developed molecular reconstruction at room temperature. No energy cost, no toxic byproducts, complete recycling of all materials." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. The Metal Mind's representative leaned forward, their surface rippling with interest. "Impossible," declared one of the energy beings. "Such processes require extreme temperatures." Walker tossed a cube identical to the hologram to their platform. "Test it yourself. Sometimes the simplest solution is the one nobody else considered. We didn't try to overpower the molecular bonds. We convinced them to reorganize themselves." The next image showed what appeared to be a regular spacesuit. "You mocked our need for atmosphere. This suit doesn't just protect us. It grows food, recycles waste, and can sustain a human indefinitely using only starlight. We developed it because we had to, not because we could afford to wait for our bodies to evolve." The Crystal Collective's dismissive sparkles had completely ceased. Several of their members were now recording every word. "But here's what you really should have noticed," Walker continued, projecting a new image, a complex network of interweaving lines. "While you were laughing at our crude FTL drives, did anyone bother to analyze their efficiency? Our primitive engines use 1/10 the energy of standard galactic drives. We achieved this not through advanced technology, but by understanding something you all overlooked." He zoomed in on the network diagram. "Space itself has natural currents, like rivers. We don't fight against space-time. We flow with it. Your civilizations built ever larger engines. We built better maps." The president's energy form had dimmed considerably. These innovations, why weren't they reported to the council?" Walker smiled slightly. "They were, in every document we submitted, but you were too busy looking down on us to actually look at our work." The next projection showed Earth's medical advances. "You called our genetic work barbaric. Well, here's what barbaric looks like. Complete cellular regeneration, aging reversal, and neural pattern transfer, all without quantum technology. We used biological solutions because we had to. Necessity bred innovation." The chamber was now filled with the subtle sounds of data devices recording, species communicating quietly among themselves, and the unmistakable shift in atmosphere from mockery to growing respect. "And since you mentioned our AI development," Walker continued, activating one final projection, "let me introduce you to something." A complex pattern appeared, shifting and flowing. "This is a visual representation of how we communicate with our artificial intelligences, not through control or dominance, but through symbiosis. They aren't our servants or our masters. They're our partners." Several species visibly reacted to this revelation. The fear in the chamber was now tinged with something else. Recognition. While you were building walls between biological and artificial life, we were building bridges. While you were forcing technology to follow your existing patterns, we were adapting our patterns to work with technology. While you were proudly standing still in your advanced civilizations, we were running, falling, learning, and growing. Walker shut down the projector, letting the implications sink in. "We don't have the luxury of time that your species do. Our short lives, our primitive needs, our crude solutions, these aren't our weaknesses. They're the foundation of our strength. We solve problems differently because we have to. And we're not going to stop." The silence that followed was different from any before. It was the silence of a galaxy recalculating its assumptions. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council remained frozen in a silence so complete that Walker could hear the soft hum of his own environmental suit. The council president's energy form had dimmed to its lowest visible level, pulsing slowly as if deep in thought. The first movement came from the Metal Mind's delegation. Their liquid metal forms shifted, creating complex patterns that their translator rendered into words. We request clarification on the molecular reconstruction technology. Before Walker could respond, the Crystal Collective's spokesperson interjected, their crystalline form refracting light in agitated patterns. The Space Current Mapping System. Our scientists theorized it was possible, but we never. Because you were looking for a complex solution, Walker explained gently. Sometimes the hardest part is accepting that the answer can be simple. A ripple of movement spread through the chamber as dozens of species began quiet discussions among themselves. The younger species, particularly those on the lower platforms, were showing obvious signs of excitement. The gas beings of the Nebula Alliance swirled in complex patterns before their speaker condensed forward. Your AI symbiosis approach. It defies everything we believed about artificial intelligence development. Walker noticed how the fear in the chamber had transformed into something else. Curiosity. Species that had moved away from humans earlier were now drifting closer to Earth's platform. An ancient species of pure energy, different from the president, floated down to Walker's level. Their translator crackled as they spoke. In all our millennia of existence, we never considered, never imagined, that progress could move so quickly without resulting in self-destruction. Perhaps, Walker suggested, that's because you were all measuring progress by the wrong metrics. You looked for perfection. We looked for solutions that worked, even if they weren't perfect. The president finally stirred, their energy form brightening slightly. But the risks, the chaos of such rapid development, is balanced by our greatest strength, Walker interrupted softly. Our ability to adapt, to change course when something doesn't work. We don't need thousands of years to realize we've made a mistake. We fail faster, learn faster, and grow faster. A small delegation of what appeared to be sentient mathematical equations floated nearby. Their symbols rearranged to communicate. The efficiency of this approach. The mathematical elegance of imperfection leading to optimal solutions. It's beautiful. The chamber had broken into dozens of small discussion groups. Walker could see centuries-old alliances shifting as species that had looked down on humanity began to reconsider their positions. The Crystal Collective's leader approached Earth's platform directly, an unprecedented move given their usual protocol. Would humanity be willing to share these innovations? Walker smiled. That was always our intention. Not because we want to prove our worth, but because we believe progress should be shared. Every species here has something to teach and something to learn. The president's form finally returned to its full brightness. You speak of cooperation after our previous treatment of your species. We're used to learning from our mistakes, Walker replied. Are you? The question hung in the air, challenging yet not hostile. The president's energy patterns shifted in what the translators suggested was embarrassment. More species were moving closer to Earth's platform now, traditional hierarchies temporarily forgotten in the wake of genuine interest. Questions began flowing freely. How did you achieve neural pattern transfer without quantum matrices? Can your waste reconstruction system be scaled for gas-based life forms? Would your AI communication protocols work with crystalline computing structures? Walker held up his hands for quiet. Every question will be answered, every innovation shared. But first, I believe we were in the middle of a resource allocation vote. The chamber grew still again, but this time with anticipation rather than contempt. The president's energy form pulsed once, brightly. The silence that had started with shock had transformed into something else entirely. Respect. The final day of the Galactic Summit marked a historic shift in interstellar politics. The resource allocation vote, when it finally took place, passed with an overwhelming majority in Earth's favor. But that was just the beginning. Walker stood at his original platform, now surrounded by representatives from dozens of species as they finalized the new cooperation treaties. The president's energy form hovered nearby, their patterns showing what the translators interpreted as eager anticipation. The technology exchange programs will begin within the next solar cycle, Walker announced, reviewing the agreements on his datapad. Earth will open 6 major research centers to host scientists from all member species. The Crystal Collective's leader chimed in, their surface gleaming with excitement. We have already selected our first research team. Our governing matrix is particularly interested in your biological computing interfaces. Across the chamber, different species were forming new alliances. The Metal Mines and the Nebula Alliance had agreed to join Earth's Waste Management Initiative. The energy beings were deep in discussion with human AI specialists, their forms glowing with intense interest. We may have been, the president began, their energy form shifting in patterns of reconciliation, hasty in our initial judgment of humanity. Walker nodded diplomatically. Every species has something to teach and something to learn. Today marks the beginning of true galactic cooperation. The chamber had transformed from its rigid hierarchical structure. The floating platforms had been adjusted to form a more equal arrangement, symbolic of the new relationships being forged. A young species of quantum wave beings, previously too intimidated to speak, approached Walker. Is it true that humans will help us develop our own space current mapping systems? Of course, Walker replied. And in return, we hope to learn from your quantum manipulation techniques. Progress works best when it flows in all directions. The final treaties were being drafted and signed. Earth would receive its fair share of quantum-grade materials and rare elements. But more importantly, humanity had earned something far more valuable: respect. The president addressed the chamber one last time, their energy form blazing brightly. Let it be recorded that this summit marks a new era in galactic history. The human approach to innovation and problem-solving will be studied and incorporated into our collective methodology. Walker watched as species that had laughed at humanity just days ago now eagerly sought meetings with Earth's representatives. The fear and mockery had been replaced by genuine curiosity and enthusiasm. As the summit drew to a close, Walker prepared to board the Unity for the journey home. The ship's departure dock was crowded with representatives wanting to establish last-minute connections and agreements. Ambassador Walker called the Crystal Collective's leader. Your words will be preserved in our memory matrices for generations to come. Walker smiled. Just remember, it's not about who's most advanced. It's about who's most willing to learn and adapt. As the Unity broke away from Nexus Station, Walker stood at the observation deck one last time. The station now looked different to him, not as a symbol of humanity's outsider status, but as a hub of new possibilities. His communication panel lit up with incoming messages, requests for collaboration, technical questions, cultural exchange proposals. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through force or fear, but through wisdom and innovation. Back in the ship's conference room, Dr. Thompson was already coordinating with her team to prepare for the incoming alien scientists. They're particularly interested in our primitive solutions, she said with a smile. Walker nodded, looking out at the star-filled space. Sometimes the simplest answer is the one that changes everything. The Unity engaged its FTL drive, slipping smoothly into the space currents that humanity had mapped. Behind them, the gathered species of the galaxy were already beginning to change, adapt, and grow, learning from the very species they had once mocked. Humanity's message had been delivered, not through threats or demands, but through wisdom and understanding. The galaxy would never be the same. As Earth's sun appeared in the distance, Walker knew that this was just the beginning. The real work of bringing species together, of sharing knowledge and growing together, was just starting, and humanity would lead the way, one simple solution at a time.